It is once again that time of year where I make a terrible bracket where mostly everything goes wrong. Yes, we are doing another March Madness bracket. I think this is my fourth straight year of actually posting me filling out the bracket. Now, if you want to join, I will make a group on the ESPN Bracket Challenge. It's probably the pinned comment already if you're seeing this, but I will essentially virtualize this bracket, and you will be able to compete with me in a group for fun, because why not? Because this is March, and it's fun, March Madness. Anyways, don't expect me to get everything right. Usually I get very wrong on this thing. Last year I got the champion right. I got Kansas right. But yeah, lower your expectations. I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert. I'm not going to claim that I'm good at this, because the truth is I'm horrible at this. Some of this may be biased. I try my best not to be. And let's get right to it with the overall #1 seed. Oh boy. Controversy already. It's one team in, and we're controversial here on this bracket. Alabama has had a lot happen to them this season. Very good team on the court. Very good basketball team. They got that killer instinct. Making shots all the time. Brandon Miller creating shots for his teammates. I'm sure you've heard every single one of those jokes before, and I just used them again. Realistically, come on, they're a 1 seed. Despite what you think of them off the court and all their controversies, all the bad things they've done or said, they're going to advance. So let's write it here. Sorry, spelled that wrong. Alabama. Alabama is going to advance out of the first round of the tournament. All right, next up, Maryland versus West Virginia. These games are in Birmingham. There's a chance I'll be there. There's also a chance I won't be there. Tickets are expensive. Anyways, interesting matchup. We got a Big 10 team versus a Big 12 team. Big 12 was very strong this year. We see teams like Kansas, Texas, Baylor, TCU. I'm definitely forgetting some schools. We'll get to them later in the bracket, but very strong conference from top to bottom. There was no really bottom dweller. Like OU was the worst team, and they still beat Bama by, 30? They still had some quality wins over TCU. So Big 12, very deep, very good conference. Maryland, a solid year, but I'm going to have to go with the Big 12 team here. I'm a fan of Texas, a Big 12 team. So call it bias, call it whatever. I just think West Virginia is better. That was a terrible W. West Virginia. Next up, we got a 5-12 matchup. The 5-12, of course, is the famous upset. That's where all the upsets happen. And it's quite the interesting matchup. San Diego State out of the Mountain West and Charleston, who I believe won their conference. I can't remember which one they won, but 31-3 on the year. They had a fantastic year. Were ranked there for a bit, I believe. San Diego State, also a great year, but you may not believe this. Very early on, we're going with an upset here. I'm going to go with the 5-12. I think Charleston wins. So Charleston advances to the round of 32. Next up, we have Furman versus Virginia. Virginia lost in the ACC Finals. Furman won the Southern Conference. Virginia looked pretty bad in that ACC Final. They had a solid season. Of course, won the national championship just a few years ago, back in 2019, I believe. Furman, first time in the tournament since like 1980 or something, had to beat Chattanooga in the final. Got revenge after losing on that half-court buzzer beater last year. I think this is very possibly an upset. Vegas says it's only a 5-point favorite for Virginia about. So I think they agree with me that it will be closer than expected. Furman could definitely pull off the upset. Every year it seems like we see a 13-12 second-round matchup instead of a 5-4. If it's going to happen anywhere, I think it would happen here with Charleston and Furman. However, I'm going to go with Virginia. I think this is going to be a very close game. I think it'll be a good game. But I think Virginia, with the national championship winning head coach, with a solid team, a lot of solid teams that they played throughout the year, I think that'll be to their benefit, especially in the end. I think Virginia advances. Next up is Creighton versus NC State. We talked about how good the Big 12 was already. Well, let's talk about the Big East. The Big East, a very strong season. Creighton, Marquette, Xavier, UConn, Providence, a very solid year in the Big East. A very difficult conference, tough conference. And I think that's going to play to their advantage. NC State had a solid year in the ACC, but I think Creighton's just too good. They had some struggles there in the early part of their conference schedule. I think they had some injuries, but they're a very strong team. I think Creighton advances. So Creighton Creighton. Sorry for my terrible handwriting. Also, this table is kind of uneven and it's wood, so it's or fake wood. I don't know what kind of, I don't know what this table is, but it's, you can hear it's not a smooth table. So my handwriting's worse than normal. That's what it is. Next up, Baylor versus UC Santa Barbara. Yeah, I think Baylor wins this one. Baylor, a very strong season, just won a national championship a couple of years ago in the very strong Big 12 conference. I think Baylor advances. I think this Baylor-Creighton game, we'll talk about it later, but I think that could potentially be one of the best games of the tournament. Two very good teams from very good conferences. It's very disappointing that we got to see one of them go very early in this tournament. Next up, Missouri-Utah State. No logic here. I'm just going to go Missouri. They were in the SEC. SEC was pretty decent this year. You had Alabama, Texas A&M, Kentucky was all right. Tennessee was good before their injuries. Who else was in there? Arkansas. But Missouri, they had a really good year. A 7 seed. I feel like they could have been better. I think A&M was the biggest snub out of all the SEC schools. I think they should have been a higher seed, a 5 seed. If you look at the final AP poll, I think A&M was like 16th or 17th. And they're a 7 seed, and everyone around them is like a 4 or a 5. So they kind of got snubbed in the seeding. We'll talk about them over here. Next up, Arizona-Princeton. Arizona, the Pac-12 champs. Every year, a 2-15 happens. In the last 2 years, we've seen a 15 advance to the Sweet 16 or further, with St. Peter's making it to the Elite 8 last year and Oral Roberts making it to the Sweet 16 2 years ago. So very possible that a 15 could be to 2, but I don't think it's going to happen here. Honestly, I don't even know if I'll predict it because it's so hard to predict. So that is the south part of the bracket, which is on the top part of the bracket. So it's the north of the bracket. Geography. Anyways, Purdue versus Texas Southern. It is time, or Texas Southern FDU. I forgot to pick the first 4. I don't know how I did this, but I forgot to pick the first 4. Let's do this really quick. Let's go Texas A&M Commerce. We're going to circle them. Mississippi State. Fairleigh Dickinson. Arizona State. Those are going to be the 4 first 4s that win. Yeah, I don't know how I forgot to do that this year, but I did. Anyways, it's time to spread my anti-Purdue agenda. Okay? Purdue is the most overrated team in this bracket. They are not a 1 seed. If you ask me, they're not even a 2 seed. I think they are the most overrated team. I cannot stand the fact that they are a 1 seed. Honestly, all the 2 seeds deserved a 1 seed over them. Purdue in the last month played so bad. They lost to 2 or 3 unranked teams. They barely got by in the Big Ten tournament against a 9 in their conference, a 13 and a 10. So they really didn't play any real, well, Rutgers was legit. Rutgers got snubbed from the tournament. I'll give them that one. Ohio State was terrible all year. They had to beat them. And then for the conference championship, Penn State. So they dodged all the good teams in their conference tournament. They are not a 1 seed. I don't like them. It's nothing personal against them. It's just I do not think they deserved a 1 seed. They're not that good. I really don't. But they're playing a 16 seed round 1. It's only happened once in history. It's not going to happen to them, though I would love for it to happen to them. Purdue advances, unfortunately. Memphis versus FAU. Oh, this is such a tough one. Memphis won the AAC. They beat Houston in the conference title game. Houston didn't have Marcus Sasser. That was a big deal. But the week before, Memphis almost beat a fully healthy Houston team in Memphis. That was very impressive. No, they didn't get the win. It came all the way down to the buzzer, though. FAU, a very strong year in the Conference USA. Won the Conference USA 31-3 on the year. This might be one of the toughest games to pick. I hate that both of these teams have to play each other. I seriously think they're both round of 32 teams, even maybe a Sweet 16 team for either one of them. I think a 1 seed always loses in the second round. The last couple of years, last year it was Baylor. The year before it was Illinois, I believe. I think this is going to be the best chance for it to happen. So whoever wins this game, I think, has a legit shot at the Sweet 16. I have gone back and forth with this one all day long since the bracket only came out yesterday. This is so tough. I'm gonna go Memphis. Just because of how they played just because of how they played Houston the last couple weeks. That's the whole reason why. FAU's a really good team. It's nothing against them. It's just that Memphis, very, very good as well. Another tough one to pick. I hate that Oral Roberts got this draw. Oral Roberts, of course, made the Sweet 16 just a couple of years ago. I think they can upset any team in this bracket. I really do. But they got a horrible first-round matchup, if you ask me. Duke is red hot right now, coming off the ACC title game. They are the ACC champions, first-year head coach. And we saw last year with North Carolina what they did with their first-year head coach, making it to the national championship game. Well, look at them now. Anyways, point being, Duke has had a really good year with a first-year coach. They won their conference. Oral Roberts, a really, really good team. It is tough to pick against either of these teams. This side of the bracket sucks when it comes to picking, especially right here. But, oh, man, I'm going to do Duke. I don't want to. My heart says Oral Roberts. My head says Duke. Duke's a really good team. They got all these top recruits. They have a solid coach. I'm going to go with Duke. Next up, Tennessee versus Louisiana. Tennessee has some injuries right now. Louisiana had a good year. I'm going to go with Tennessee. I'm just going to go with Tennessee. Not even going to think about it. Kentucky versus Providence. A Big East team in Providence versus Kentucky out of the SEC. This could be a tough matchup for Kentucky, tough matchup for Providence. It's going to be a tough one to pick. I'm going to go with the 6th seed. I'm going to go with Kentucky. I think Kentucky gets out of that first round, unlike last year when they lost to the Peacocks, St. Peter's. Kansas State versus Montana State. Kansas State, a really good year, a dream year for them. They were projected to finish last in the Big 12, ended up finishing 3rd, I believe. A 3 seed in this tournament. Very good team. I've been high on this team since like early February. I think they could very well make a deep run. Believe in this team. I think they get it done. KSU gets to the round of 32. Michigan State versus USC, a tough matchup again. Michigan State, Tom Izzo, of course, all that experience. On the coaching side of things, they had a solid year, tough round in the Big Ten tournament. And then you've got USC, good year for them in the Pac-12, lost early in their conference tournament. I'm going to go with Michigan State. I am. I'm going to go with Tom Izzo and the experience there. Next up, Marquette versus Vermont. Marquette, head coached by Longhorn legend Shaka Smart. Everything's clicking for them right now. They won their conference tournament. They won the regular season conference. They had a really good non-conference. They spanked Baylor in their non-conference. But Marquette's having a fantastic year. They're hot right now. I can't pick against them. Gonna go with Marquette. Half the bracket is done for the round of 32, or getting to the round of 32. I know this is a long video. I've done a lot of talking, but bear with me. Houston, Northern Kentucky, Houston. Northern Kentucky, they won their conference as a 4 seed in their conference. Very impressive. I was actually watching their games. Very impressive team. Had to beat Cleveland State. Houston, fantastic year. Their non-conference, they did great. Conference, they did great. Unfortunate, if Marcus Sasser's out, that could definitely impact how deep of a run they make. But if he's healthy, I think they can make a deep run. Iowa versus Auburn. I have no idea why they put Auburn in Birmingham. That seems like a home court advantage for them. It's a 2-hour drive, but still, it seems like home court advantage to them, especially against Iowa and Houston when they're a lower seed than both of them. Makes no sense to me why Auburn is playing in Birmingham. Alabama makes sense. They're from Tuscaloosa, just 45 minutes away, and, they're the 1 seed. Auburn makes no sense. Could that home court advantage play to their skill set? No. Iowa's advancing. Iowa is beating Auburn. Sorry, Auburn fans. They haven't impressed me this year. Miami, Florida versus Drake. Could we have another 5-12? Miami had an injury in the ACC tournament. They lost to Duke in the semis. Drake had a fantastic year. I want to say they pulled off an upset sometime recently. This is tough. I've done a 5-12 with Charleston. The other 5-12 I did not pick. I thought about it. I genuinely think that every 5-12 this year could happen. But I'm lame, or am I? Last second gut feeling, Drake. We're going with Drake. Upset alert in Albany. Indiana versus Kent State. Kent State had a fantastic year. This very well could be a 13-4 upset. I think this is going to be the second most likely. No, I'm going to make it third most likely. I think the most likely 4-13 is Furman over Virginia. Second most is Iona over UConn. Third most will be Kent State over Indiana, but Indiana. Iowa State versus either Mississippi State or Pitt, and I picked, where are they? Mississippi State. Iowa State, oh my, what an unpredictable team. Like a 5-game losing streak, then they beat Baylor twice in the span of a week. They lose one of their best players, Caleb Grill, due to him being kicked off the team. They're unpredictable. They could lose in this first round, and they can make it to the Final Four. I don't know what to expect with this team. I'm scared to do anything with them. I'm scared to have them win this game. I'm scared to have them lose this game. I'm just going to have them win out of fear. Honestly, I'm scared to have them lose too. I don't know what's going to happen with them. Xavier versus Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State, solid year, but Big East. Xavier. Texas A&M and Penn State. Texas A&M got snubbed out of a 5 seed. This is fully a financial move by the NCAA. They wanted Texas A&M and Texas to play in round 2. That is the whole reason that they set this up. You cannot convince me otherwise. A&M had a fantastic year. Terrible non-conference schedule in terms of the strength of it. A couple of bad losses, the worst coming to Wofford. But they rallied. Finished second in the regular season in the SEC. Lost in the SEC championship. Just didn't have that killer instinct that Alabama had. And they really did have a fantastic year. They beat Bama in the regular season. They beat Tennessee. They beat Arkansas twice in the season. I mean, they had a super strong season, especially in their conference. The net ratings or whatever, I think they were good, but they're a really good team. Penn State, really hot right now. They had a solid year as well. I hate that these two teams had to play each other in the first round. I think both of these teams could potentially make runs. I think Penn State could make a run to the Sweet 16. I think A&M could make a legit run to the Elite 8. Maybe the Final Four. I'm going to say Elite 8. Elite 8. I'm going to pick A&M. TAMU is going to advance. Texas versus Colgate. Texas, the last time they won the Big 12 championship, the Big 12 Conference Tournament championship, that is, they ended up losing to Abilene Christian just a week later. So Texas, if you're watching this, I doubt you are, I am a Texas fan. I cannot live through that again. Please take this game seriously. Please, please, please do not lose to Colgate. Texas, I really want to pick against you, but it's a 2-15. If you lose to Colgate, I will be furious. Texas, please advance. I'm going to put Texas. Though Colgate almost pulled something off against Arkansas, I think 3 years ago when Arkansas was a 3. Colgate was a 14. I think Colgate almost won that game if I remember correctly. So Colgate is not a team to mess around with. Texas, don't you dare mess around. Kansas versus Howard. Kansas. Kansas. Arkansas, Illinois. Oh boy. I don't know. This is tough. Arkansas had a good year. Illinois had a good year. This is a toss-up. This is a coin flip. I'm just going to go with Arkansas. So whoever wins that game, that's how it's pronounced. It's either going to be pronounced Kansas or Arkansas after this game. St. Mary's versus VCU, another 5-12 matchup. I'm going to go with St. Mary's. St. Mary's made it to their conference championship game, got smacked by Gonzaga in their semifinal. They played BYU, were up like 25, choked it away, and only won by like 4. So that does concern me for them. But I'm going to go St. Mary's. UConn versus Iona. I said this is the second most likely 4-13. I'm not going to pick a 4-13. UConn was in the Big East. Really strong year. Anyways, I think UConn advances. I don't know what I said before that. I kind of had to stop recording. Anyways, TCU versus Arizona State. I had Arizona State winning that one. I'm going to go with TCU. Strong year for the Big 12. Strong year for them. They had some injuries that really set them back in the middle of conference play, hurt their seeding. I think they're going to beat Arizona State. Gonzaga versus Grand Canyon. I'm going to go with the Zags. Gonzaga. And to finish off the first round of the tournament, I'm going to go Northwestern versus Boise. This is tough. Northwestern with a solid year. Boise with a solid year. Ah, man. I'm gonna go with Boise. Boise. It's a terrible B, but Boise. And UCLA. We go UCLA. So there it is. My round of 32. Let's go back to the top with the killer instinct of Alabama. They play West Virginia. I think they're going to make some shots. Okay, I'm out of jokes. I think Alabama beats West Virginia. As good as West Virginia is, I know Alabama got spanked by the last Big 12 team they played. I think they get it together this time. I think Alabama advances to the Sweet 16. I hate to do it. I don't want to. But they're going to go there. UVA versus Charleston. Oh, boy. Are we going to have a 12 seed in the Sweet 16, or is it going to be the 4 seed? Am I feeling bold today? Of course I am. It's March Madness. I'm probably going to get the first round game wrong anyways. Let's do it. Charleston to the Sweet 16. I can't fit Charleston, so we're putting Char. Creighton versus Baylor. Once again, I think this could be one of the games of the tournament. Really good teams. Really, really good teams. Either one of these teams can make a deep run. It's a toss-up. It really is. I think either one of these teams can win, but I'm going to go Baylor. Baylor advances. Missouri versus Arizona. Toss-up. I think Arizona edges Missouri. So Arizona. So that is a terrible Z. Just assume that's a Z. So in the Sweet 16, the 4 coming out of the South region, Alabama a 1 seed, Charleston a 12, Baylor a 3, Arizona a 2. Now next up, this is going to be the most satisfying moment of my life. I cannot stand Purdue. They are overrated. I don't know why I don't like them so bad. I just think they're extremely overrated. They're probably going to prove me wrong and go to the Final Four or win the national championship in spite of me. That's probably what's going to happen. But I can't do it. I'm not advancing them. Purdue's going to be that 1 seed that loses early this year. It's going to be Purdue. They are frauds. They should not be in this tournament as a 1 seed. They are losing to Memphis. Memphis to the Sweet 16 over those frauds, Purdue. That's going to come back to bite me. I'm telling you, after I call Purdue frauds and say that they suck, they're going to go win the national championship or something. Duke versus Tennessee. The injuries are going to hurt Tennessee. Duke advances. Kentucky versus Kansas State. Ooh, this is a tough one. I think I had 3 6s in all of them. Ah, boy. I told you I thought Kansas State can make a deep run. I think Kentucky is good. They've had their moments. They've looked really good. They swept Tennessee. They did beat Texas A&M, but that was at home. But at the same time, they have some ugly losses. They lost to Vanderbilt at home. They lost to Vanderbilt to get in the SEC tournament. Kansas State's really good. I'm going to put Kansas State through. Now for Marquette, Michigan State. Once again, this is a tough one. Shaka Smart never won a tournament game at Texas. He made the Final Four with VCU. I sense another magical run coming with Marquette and Shaka Smart. Marquette is in the Sweet 16. This side of the bracket, the Sweet 16 is filled. And down here in the East region, the Sweet 16 members are Memphis, an 8 seed, Duke, a 5 seed, Kansas State, a 3, Marquette, a 2. Up here in the Midwest, I think Houston advances healthy. They advance for sure. Unhealthy, they still probably advance. It'll be tougher, but I think they can do it. Indiana, Drake. I think Indiana advances. I'll go Indiana. Xavier, Iowa State. I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm going to go Iowa State. And then this one. Oh, boy. This is tough. 2 very good teams. Rivals. Not fans of each other. As a Texas fan, I can tell you, I don't like Texas A&M. Texas A&M would say the same thing about Texas. Not friends. If this ends up happening, whoever loses this game, that fan base is going to be hiding forever. They will never be able to say a word. That is how bad this is. The winner advances to the Sweet 16. You're going to think I'm biased, but Texas is the higher seed. Texas has had an outstanding year. They just smacked Kansas 2 weeks in a row. They have a lot of good wins. They beat Kansas State. They beat Baylor. They beat TCU twice. They have some really good wins this year. So I'm going to put Texas through. So we're going to have a Big 12 round of 16, Sweet 16 matchup. Kansas, Arkansas, I think Kansas. Kansas really good again. This might be the best chance for a repeat champion in over a decade. Kansas advances. St. Mary's, UConn, this is a very tough one. I think St. Mary's, the way they played in that tournament, the West Coast tournament, that has really haunted me. Not haunted, but it's been like, okay, I witnessed that. They got murdered by Gonzaga, no offense to Alabama, and BYU almost came back and beat them. And I think that's why UConn advances. TCU versus Gonzaga. I sense a 6-3 upset here. I think the 6th seed of TCU upsets Gonzaga. As for Boise, UCLA, I think UCLA advances. So this is actually the only one where I have a 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 6, a 4, a 1, 1, 12, 3, 2, 8, 5, 3, 2. Kind of a boring bracket, I know. But I did put a 12 seed in there. So there you go. Does the dream continue for Charleston or does it get stopped here? I think it gets stopped here. Alabama advances. I hate doing that. Baylor versus Arizona. Arizona. Let's do a double A in the Elite Eight. Memphis Duke, 8 versus a 5. Oh boy. You know what? UNC did it last year, sure. Why not? Duke to the Elite Eight as a 5 seed. Kansas State, Marquette. I think the magic continues for Shaka. I think Marquette advances to the Elite Eight. Houston, Indiana. I tell you what, man. If Houston is fully healthy, they can make a title run. If Marcus Sasser is out, that is going to hurt them. I'm going to go with the upset here. I think Indiana advances to the Elite Eight. Iowa State, Texas. This is going to be my upset region. Well, technically this one was, but I'm going to go with another upset here. I know Texas handled Iowa State and Austin pretty easily, but Iowa State handled Texas and Ames pretty good. Didn't play each other in the Big 12 tournament. I'm going to go Iowa State. Iowa State, they're the most unpredictable team. As I said, they can make a Final Four run. They could very well lose in the first round. I don't know what's going to happen with them. But this bracket's going to go crazy, okay? It's going to go crazy. Kansas, UConn, I think Kansas wins. TCU, UCLA, I think the run ends for TCU. UCLA advances. And oh boy. My Elite Eight. I didn't know how it was going to look coming into this thing. All these picks are on like just heat of the moment, who I think is going to win. So Alabama, Arizona, Duke, Marquette, Kansas, UCLA, and Indiana, Iowa State. Oh man, I think all the momentum in the world stops here. I can't do it. I can't put Alabama in the Final Four. As good as they are, I am being told internally, don't put Alabama in the Final Four. I don't know what the reasoning is. I think I know what the reasoning is, but I think Alabama, their run ends here. Arizona to the Final Four. Oh, boy. Duke, Marquette. Jeez. Okay, I've gone crazy enough for this bracket. Let's do more chaos. Duke, back-to-back Final Fours. This time as a 5 seed. When they lose to Oral Roberts in the first round, and my bracket just gets destroyed after that, that's going to be hilarious. Honestly, it really is. Indiana, Iowa State. I think Iowa State's magical run ends here. I'm going to put Indiana, the return to glory for them. First Final Four in I don't know how long. Kansas, UCLA. Kansas. I think Kansas is really good. I know they've had a tough couple of weeks in terms of their play, but if Kevin McCullough's healthy, if Bill Self is back, I think Kansas, they should make another deep run. So my final four is Arizona, Duke, Indiana, and Kansas. What am I doing here? I don't know. This bracket is trash. I should really just shred it right now. It's pretty bad. Arizona, Duke. My goodness. What have I done here? Let's do Arizona. Arizona advances to the national championship game. Indiana, Kansas. 4 seed versus a 1 seed. On the other side, we have a 2 versus a 5. I think the higher seed advances. Kansas versus Arizona. In my championship. Oh, Lord. God. Arizona, Kansas for the national championship. Arizona, it's hot there in the summer. Kansas has like wheat and corn and stuff. Arizona they're the Bears or something? What are they? What is their mascot now that I think about it? I don't know. Kansas, the Jayhawks. I don't know why I'm blanking out on Arizona's mascot. I think they're like the Bears or the Wildcats, something like that. Point being, oh, gosh. I don't know. This is tough. Do I dare do Kansas back-to-back years of winning the national championship? Or do I put Arizona as a new national champion? I'm boring. I suck. I'm going to put Kansas as my national champion. I think they're the first repeat champions in however long it's been. That is my bracket. This will be shredded in about 2 days. Not actually. I need to keep it up for fun purposes. But yes, there's going to be a lot of red X's on this bracket. Very wrong, very bad. I told you at the beginning it'd be terrible. But there you go. A 1 seed Kansas wins. A 1 seed Alabama gets knocked off in the Elite Eight. Houston in the Sweet 16. Purdue in the round of 32 because they are frauds. Anyways, that is my bracket. Get a good look at it before it gets all marked up and X'd out. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I know this video was a long one, but we had to fill out a whole bracket here.